So what happens if you play regularly the Latvian gambit and somebody just decides to move f4 on the second move, meaning that they play the king's gambit, the king's bishop gambit against you? You're not going to be able to play the Latvian unless you're a very risky player. And people have played f5 on the second move as black against the king's gambit against me, and I've destroyed it every time. So I would suggest learning the Falkbeer. Falkbeer is a challenging opening to face as black, and I don't know the Falkbeer. I know how to defeat the Falkbeer, so I'd rather concentrate on that. One day I may learn the Falkbeer. However, simply playing d6 on the third move, Fischer's defense, works very well. As you know, I play the Dutch defense occasionally when forced to, and I play a very sound version of the Dutch defense. I play a couple versions, the Leningrad on the Stonewall, and I play them extremely soundly, and that is a divergent part of unsound chess. If there's no way to play the unsound kind of tactical chess you want to play, then you have to play the sound chess, because that's all that's left. So be cognizant of the b3 through f7 diagonal when playing Fischer's defense, and you need to put pressure on his e4 square and the advance of his e4 pawn while defending that diagonal. So we're going to go to a game right now. We're going to show you how this is done. This player is rated, I believe it was 21-25. We'll switch sides here because we're black. There's Fischer's defense. And when white plays bishop to c4 first, it's slightly more accurate to play h6 than g5 for a variety of reasons. If he played d4, you would play g5 right away. Now, you've seen we've made all pawn moves. White's made a lot of good piece development moves, and we're way behind in development, but we are a pawn up. And this position, we'll turn on our engine, shows that it's virtually an even game. We're just a little bit better. And the computer wants us to play c6. However, we are going to play bishop to g7 here. There are a variety of things that it suggests white should do, and that's not one of them. However, once again, interesting on c6. Computer loves moving pawns here. We want to try to develop as soon as possible. So, as you see, the white queen is going to go to b3 and pressure the f7 square, and that could possibly turn out to be a difficulty with an advance of the e-pawn and a recapture with a knight. So now it's suggesting that e5. By the way, I often played knight to c6 there instead of f6. This was kind of a bit of an experiment by me. I'm not too worried about e5 in this position. Once again, it was suggesting I castle. Now it's suggesting h3 because it sees a variety of threats here. Now we see that after b4, black's kind of significantly ahead in evaluation, and we're almost fully developed, probably even a little better developed than white. He's expanding on the queen side for no apparent reason. If the black king were castled there, now there would be a reason. So computer wants us to play knight to e7. That's not the way I play this defense. These are good moves by white. He's going to push e5 if he possibly can. And we back the bishop up to h5, which I see as the computer's final number one move. Now notice that white has a giant hole on e3 that is blocked by his own knight. His knight, of course, can go to f1 and cover it doubly, so trying to exploit that with knight to g4 is a little fruitless. So what we're trying to do again is carefully watch our f7 square and attack the e-pawn. So we can do that by a variety of fashions here, simply because our bishop is now covering the f7 square. Now it wants us to play knight to g4 to e3, but we back up, and he could have gotten into e5 as his best move. And now the computer says we have a decisive advantage simply by playing knight takes d5, which is kind of an interesting idea. It takes away the coverage of the e-pawn. He's got to recapture with the pawn, and we'll move our knight to e7 and completely dominate the e3 square eventually. So as I believe I don't play that in this game. I simply continue to develop, which also gives us a nearly decisive advantage. knight to d5. We're making all number 1 moves here. Not always the computer's moves. Instead, he should have moved knight to f1 here instead of there. So we have the opportunity to chase that knight now, which we do. Knight to h4. Now it says bishop to h7, but I decided to move the bishop to d3, and the idea is to get a fork in on e3. So as you see, the computer changes its mind on the evaluation. He's kind of forced to take that. And he's making some better moves than the computer suggested, so we didn't decide to do the queen, the pawn takes pawn thing, opening up with his rook on our own queen. Instead, we're looking at penetration with the queen and very careful play here. So this game's about to be over. As you can see, we're up 3.5, and there's no way he can possibly defend this. We won't go through the rest of the game. He's now pinned. He can't take the f7 pawn. We're going to get on the 7th rank, and that should be the end. And so that was an example of the Fischer defense and what I do against the King's Gambit.